I'm always fascinated when I get to talk to him. He is Kwabena Agyepong. He is now a presidential hopeful in the NPP's 10 individuals, among the 10 individuals seeking to lead the party into the 2024 elections. The NPP presidential primaries has become one many watching pretty keenly because he is in there, and many others are in there. But it's very fascinating when you talk to him, going way back to when he was press secretary. Anytime I have to speak to him, you have to prepare extra because you're going to have, as they say in our local parlance, you'll be meeting your meter. And he's joining me again. This time, he says he wants to be president. So let's have that conversation. But let's track a bit. For those who don't know him as well, maybe as I do, having spoken to him many, many times over the years since he was press secretary, the former president, let's track his NPP journey. He's been there. He's done that. If you do the line, you go back to, say, 1998, one of the things you begin to learn instantly is that he's been there and done that. He lead up Akufo-Addo's campaign during the MP presidential primaries. I've seen his press pack, and it's very impressive indeed because you see him standing behind Akufo-Addo, a young-looking Akufo-Addo. Yeah, he was old then, but he looked very fresh. And he was standing behind him with a map. And you saw that relationship in that picture. He spoke 1,000 words indeed. And so he's been there and done that. He knows how to campaign because he's done it for Akufo-Addo. So I guess he is relying on that strength, that knowledge in this campaign. Then come to 2000, the year, of course, that we saw that switch from the NDC to the NPP. He was the lead agent for J. Akufo at the EC strong room. He's been there, the much dreaded strong room. He's been there, he's done that. That's where the nerve center of the elections. And then you come to 2001, again, he was appointed press secretary, President J. Akufo, and I've been talking a lot about this because I began talking to him quite a lot back then, and you know he was a forceful character, knew what he had to say, and said it with clarity. And if you're speaking to him, you know you have to be really bring your A game because he is going to bring his as well. And in 2008, lead agent for Akufo-Addo again in the EC strong room. So you begin to see the trend here. He's played between the two key individuals within the party over the years and done significant things for them in terms of the campaigns that they've run and ensuring that the ballot is protected over the period. And so that is very important indeed. He himself now will be hoping that people will be voting for him, and he will draw on these skills, obviously, as the campaign unfolds into 26th, when he either become part of the five or out of the race completely. And I guess he will hope he will place in the top five. Come to 2014, elected General Secretary of the NPP, and that was a high for him, holding an elected office in the party. And then you come to 2015, a year before the elections, whirlwind of controversy. He was suspended as the General Secretary of the party. Subsequently, years down the line, that of course was lifted in 2020. As we know, he joins the president's campaign again. We saw him on the campaign tour after, the bridges were closed. And as you know, that this particular part of this put them really in opposing ends when the president was the candidate at the time. But clearly, from what we saw in 2020, they definitely appear to have smoked that peace pipe and return to that friendship that at least they used to have, or did they? We'll try and find out. And then 2022, he's declared his intention to run for president in 2024. So you see, he has really been there and done that over the years. That's him I'm talking about, Kwabena Agyei Agyepong. He insists, include that middle name, and why not? And something that he said, we can't put forward those who led us to this state. He's talking about where the country is currently. We're facing our worst economic crisis in a generation. He says we need a new face, a pair of clean hands. He says a leader who can reconnect to our base. He's talking about the base of the party and the trust of the people. The thing is, many before him have struggled to do this. Why does he believe he can be an exception to what appears to be a rule, at least in his Fourth Republic or in his own party? He's my guest. He's seated already for a conversation tonight. I'm going to take a break. When I return, we'll get into it. You see the smile on his face. He's ready for the questions. He knows they will come. But remember that PM Express, always brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we are going to occupy them ourselves. Syntax tanks, it is strong, it is tough. Alomobites experience greatness in every moment. And the Ghana AIDS Commission. Stay with me. After this, Kwabena Agyei Agyepong is my guest. And thanks for staying with us. My guest is in the studio. If you didn't catch us at the beginning, I will introduce him once again, and then we'll get into the conversation. But remember that PMS is always brought to you by Syntax Tanks. No matter your water needs, Syntax Tank has it all. Syntax Tanks is first to introduce you double-layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntax Tanks is first to introduce the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce to you the customer specs order. We let you order any color and any size of preference. The Syntax tank gives you the longest warranty, 7 years, with no other tanks in Ghana attempting anything close. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, just choose Syntax tank. We have agents nationwide. Call them 0244-335-168 or shop online syntaxgh.com. A yes tough, a yes strong. Cherry Tree Properties desires our wishes. Beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is everything. Think about buying a new home. You talk to those who build with passion. They have Sloan Square, and it's a new gated community development at Sakumono. You don't really want to go anywhere else but to Cherry Tree Properties. Now, it is developed by them. It's a one-of-a-kind, well-planned luxury you've never experienced. You want to call them on 0553-662-366, 0553-662-366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. My guest is Kwabena Agyei Agyepong. He is a presidential hopeful for the New Patriotic Party. Thank you, Kwabena, for your time on PM Express again.
Evans, it's been a while.
It's been.
One comment I want to make.
Tell me.
In our time behind the console, there was nothing like presenter mentions. They will let you just fly the advert in itself, but now I see it's a firm part of what you do. And
it's a great way to start because people don't know you were once a journalist. You sat in this part of the desk and asked questions, and you did sports as well. We'll come to that later because you also have some interesting thoughts about entertainment I want to get into. But you're doing the serious business of campaigning. You wanted to be president. First, you have to win the hearts and minds of your delegates. How has the campaign been so far?
It's been good. It's been tough. It's afforded me the opportunity to get back to what I love, which is politics. Campaigning is something I've enjoyed right from 1992. It can be very taxing and demanding. I've just started the second round of visitations with Greater Accra last week, and I'm heading to the Volta region on Friday. Hopefully next week I'll be in Central and Western, then head towards the Middle Belt because we have very little time and I want to breeze through the country. I've always developed a very quick template of visiting all the 16 regional capitals in a very short period of time. So I think I have a very efficient and effective machinery working.
It's been said that to win any elected office, such as you're running, you must have a constituency, you must have a base. What's yours?
It's the party, because I've served the party right from the get-go. Dubois Hennen's time. It's one thing you missed in your timeline. 1992, I was the face and voice of...
I saw the picture of you with him. Were you behind him?
I was behind him.
You were behind him, yes.
I was behind him in 1992. So it's something that I've been used to. And so the party people, they recognize the long, dedicated service. And in those days, those were difficult times. It was very life-threatening to be associated with the NPP under the military dictatorship. So as a young 30-year-old, to sacrifice for the party and at the risk of my professional development as a civil engineer with Ghana Highway Authority, a lot of our party people, they appreciate it. So I think that is my constituency.
The party?
Yeah.
Well, Alan will say Kumasi. In fact, Ashanti region, to be more broadly speaking. Baumia will say, well, the North is my base. Because you want to be president, the party won't be enough. Assuming you win, you have to tap into something greater than the party to win the national elections. And I'm assuming you're doing this because you genuinely believe you can be our president.
That's correct.
So beyond the party, what's your base?
Well, in fact, I mean, the youth of this country, because of my work in the media, I became a national figure even before politics came back. You know, hosting the sports highlights for close to a decade. The first time we had to watch World Cup on television, Italia 90, I was a fixture there. So I would say, in all humility, I became a national celebrity right before politics. So the Kwabena Agyepong was known in every home, because at the time there was no Joy FM. It was only GBC and GTV. So if 8 p.m. on Monday night you are hosting it, everybody gets to know you. I do believe that it counts for something, that I'm the only one out of the 10 who has contested a national election in the party and won in 2014, albeit my tenure was short-changed, you know. So I think it counts for something.
What does it count for?
It counts for because people know that this is someone who identifies with the grassroots. I know how the party people feel. I've run the party before. The one during my tenure, our tenure, we were able to ensure that we were strengthening the party in all the 275 constituencies. We were made to set up party accounts so that we could deliver their resources to them right to their gate and, you know, bring some transparency into it. So I'm a known face in the party, so I'm deep-rooted in the party. A lot of the elders who are still alive recognize the sacrifices that we all made together in 1992 through to 1996. So I'm counting on that.
The delegates, though, you've been meeting them. Just over 900 of them will decide.
That's right.
Faith. When you've met them, what have they told you?
Well, first and foremost, I think we have placed too much mileage on this first stage of the elections. It's just an opportunity or a tool to shortlist down to 5. Nobody's expecting a winner to be determined here. So I'm a bit surprised that people seem to be placing all their bets on it. It can be very possible that the one who wins or the one who leads may not be the winner in November.
So your party's own history says otherwise. Whoever emerges the winner in the super delegates, granted, this is not...
Several times in life, history has been disproved. So these things can happen. I think that this is an opportunity for the party to reduce the numbers to 5. There is a school of thought in the party that thinks that it is unnecessary, but that is the constitution.
Where do you stand?
And we respect it. I think 2007 was an aberration. There were 17 of us. I was the youngest. So I think a lot of people felt that divided the party and created a certain image. I don't subscribe to that view, but be it as it may, the party took a decision to have this. When I was General Secretary, there were only 7. I felt that 7 should have been allowed to go, but there was pressure from National Council to follow the Constitution. And that's why we had the super delegates. And again, as you said, the winner massively then also won, but it's not the same thing. The influence of now President Akufo-Addo on the party is different because he has been there right from, in fact, way before even the NPP. Okay, so having gone through those numerous elections, it was to be expected that you win that night. But right now, I think, yes, it is fair to say there are 2 front runners. One, because I keep saying that is by default. Politically, the vice president is number 2 and wants to be number 1. Electorally, Alan Shormatin, my senior brother, has been second to Nanado in the previous 3 elections, so wants to aspire to be number 1. So, of course, they've had visibility, they've been in government, so that is to be expected. But
you are the first of the 10 that I've heard, and I've interviewed many of them on the show, who admit that there are 2 front runners.
But of course, I mean, it's...
And you don't put yourself in the 2.
What happens is that the media has been cultured to believe that, and they have been presenting that. But I have fought very hard. I mean, coming from, I would say, deep under the ground. I mean, these days when I hear the media mention 4 or 5 people, my name is always featuring. I'm not someone who gives a lot of attention to polls, but I've seen a few polls, not doing very well, but I'm getting figures. I'm always fourth, fifth. So it's encouraging that, you know, I can come back and the name can resonate positively. I think my message of a new dawn changing the country, a new direction, a new dimension, is resonating positively with the Ghanaian people. Because it's my firm belief that after 30 years of this democracy, we are not where we wish to be.
As a country?
As a country.
We'll come to that because I think we'll reserve. I've seen your speech, I've read it in detail for this conversation. We'll talk about Ghana very soon because that's your ultimate objective. But first, you have to convince your delegates.
I have to go.
Yes, yes. So I want to stay in the next few minutes on the party for a second and ask you, I mean, if you believe the two are front runners, why in the race then? Because if they're front runners, they're front runners.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, I've told you, underdogs win. It's happened many times in the political.
You concede you an underdog.
I'm saying you want to make a headline out of this.
No, you use the word.
What is important is underdogs also win. It has happened several times. When I was contesting,
I submit to you.
When I was contesting,
not in Ghanaian politics, very rarely.
Not given a chance. Look at all the polls, nowhere near. But I wiped him off the slate in Tamale. So I have experience in this. And I do know that the party people, they recognize hard work, the reward values, dedication, sacrifice. And they know I've been there from 92, 96, the first strong room. Have you watched the African elections film in 2000?
I have. I was actually featured in there trying to look for an interview with you and haggling over that. Yeah. I don't know whether I got the interview, but whatever it is, yes, you're saying that counts for a lot.
It counts for a lot.
Shows your sacrifice for the party?
For the party service. I mean, my political life has been based on what I call the triple S: service, sacrifice, and selflessness. And it is what I have left. This is the experience I have shown to the party people and to Ghanaians. They've seen that. Even times when it was difficult for people to rise up and be counted, I was prepared to do so. And the party people, wherever I have been, and I've told them my story, and a lot of them have lived through it. Of course, there are newer people, but when you tell them the historical journey that Ghana has been on, the party has been on, they know I'm someone who has the institutional memory of this political tradition.
But you are also in this campaign and have a recent history, and as you've been going to the party delegates, of having been suspended also whilst you were serving the party.
Yes.
That definitely must, if I am running in the race, people will use it against you.
Well, because they know the truth. They know what happened. I mean, I've had over a year to go around and have that discussion on national radio, national television. Everywhere I've been asked those difficult questions. And it was important. In fact, this campaign afforded me the opportunity to go to the party and explain to some of them what they did not understand about what happened. First and foremost, it is very clear. What happened in 2015 was unjustified. It was illegal. It wasn't according to our procedures, but it's something I like to put behind me. I don't want to reside in history.
The delegates, they understand this?
A lot of them feel a sense of sympathy that I was not treated properly by this party. I'm a general secretary who was not even paid a cent of my due.
But at the time, the party had consensus that you had to go.
I don't think you can say that. I don't think you can say that.
At least
the constitution of the party
came to that conclusion.
The constitution of the party is very clear. If you want to remove the principal officers of our party, like the party chairman or the general secretary, you've got to go back to Congress. First and foremost, the petitions that were filed were never filed at the party secretariat. The steering committee never had the opportunity to look at it and determine on the face of it and initiate action. It found its way straight to the disciplinary committee, which was irregular. It is something that should not have stood, but as you said, it happened. And as a political figure, I love my party. Sometimes you take these hits, but in life you take the highs with the lows. So I've gone beyond that. I don't think if really the president felt that I did not mean well for him, he would call me to join him in his re-election in 2020. I know that. He's got full custody of national security. If there was any iota of truth in some of the allegations, the vile propaganda, I'm sure he would have seen that.
But it took 2015 to 2020, 5 years for this to happen.
It took a long time. It took a very long time for this to happen. More than long, in my view. But it has happened. But you thank God for the strength, the emotional intelligence, the fortitude to stand up to it, and then say, look, this is my party. I'll put that chapter behind me and go.
He's a de facto leader of the party.
That's right.
Where do you stand with him?
With him? Well, I think that when he called me back, I've always had a very long-standing relationship with him. But after the elections of 2020, when we won, there was an opportunity I thought he should have grabbed with what the Ghanaian people were telling us. We should look at the difference between 2016 and 2020. You know, a victory of 63-seat majority disappearing, and then a popular vote of 1 million being halved. It means that we're not entirely happy with what has transpired. Normally, he should imbibe that and make some major changes. But he hasn't done that. I was not happy with that. I've expressed that, but that is his choice. He's the president.
Him? Do you even have access to it?
Oh, I wouldn't say directly. I've had access to him. Anytime we meet at National Council meetings, and if I want to see him, he will allow me to see him. But we haven't had a chat about that. I mean, I would have told him certain things.
Just out of curiosity, do you still have any grudge towards him? Because
no.
He was the flag bearer when you were removed.
He was the de facto leader. Yes.
And the decision was his ultimately.
Of course.
Because he takes all the responsibility for it.
Yes. I mean, he cannot be set aside for what happened.
You bear the grudge,
I don't bear the grudge. I was disappointed not only in him and many others of the elders who I had worked with during Professor Dubois Henning's time, through Mr. Kufuor's time and all that. And these were elders who know my character. That I'm somebody who is forthright, my word is my bond with me, there are no frills. And so I was surprised that they could succumb to all the vile propaganda that was being orchestrated to remove me. But that has happened. I think, Evans, we can move on.
Yes. Talking about moving on, let's come to the campaign.
Yeah.
You recently said on Peace FM about whether there's a level playing field or not. And I quote from the reproduction of this on the Peace FM online that I pulled up, that Dr. Bawumia has been a vice president for 7 years. He has his own strength, so they should let him conduct his own campaign. It's difficult. We source for our own campaign funds. But for him as vice president, he's fortunate because of state resources, vehicle, fuel, etc. They should let him run his own campaign, devoid of these logistical support. And then you say, quote, the president cannot play the ostrich and pretend he's not privy to what is going on. What is going on?
I heard the president recently made a very forward statement that, trying to put blame on some of us aspirants, seeking to create the impression that we think that he's supporting the vice president. I think action speaks louder than words. Everybody knows that.
What actions?
Now, if you have a retinue of CEOs, these are public servants appointed by the president who leave their jobs and follow the vice president around. That cannot be right for the governance principles of our country.
Exercising their personal choice or preference.
No, you cannot exercise your choice of president when you're a public official. That is different. You can support the campaign, but you can't, for the life of me, they are corporate governance rules. When you're a minister, it's different. You're a politician. But when you're a chief executive of a state institution like state transport, state housing, Bui Power Authority, Cocoa Board, and all that, I don't think it lies within your purview to be going out there making public statements preferring one candidate or the other. You shouldn't do that. It goes against the grain of governance principles. And that is what I said. And the optics are at variance with what the president said, because the president has the authority through at least the chief of staff to call some of these people off. It sends a wrong signal to society. And that's why I said, Bawumia has had 7 years as a vice president. Let him go and campaign and let him win on his own strength. I mean, I've seen a lot of the videos of his campaigns when too many people speak even before he speaks.
But what's wrong with that?
I don't think there's a need. I mean, the president himself has campaigned a lot in the past. And when we were campaigning with him, why are you
worried about the conduct of his campaign?
I'm not worried about the conduct. I'm saying that the optics.
What's wrong with the optics?
So when I talk about the impression being created, when you have all these political appointees lined up behind him, it supposes that the president is also lined up behind him. But anyway,
are you suggesting that
for me is not the important thing.
If today you have CEOs of state institutions, your friend ministers, all coming to your campaign to endorse you, you will say no, go to your office and work?
They shouldn't do it.
You will tell them not to support you openly and come to your
quietly, but
rallies?
some have been supporting me quietly. For your information.
You're actually saying, as a politician seeking to win the party's flag leadership race,
have you read
that you have people coming to support you, tell them, no, don't come to my rally, go to your office and work.
Evans, we have code of ethics in this country. When you are CMB of Cocoa Board, that is CMB, when you are the CEO of Cocoa Board, that is CEO of Cocoa Board.
Yeah, but that...
You are not allowed, it should not be allowed. You see, that's why we need to restore our public service.
To support, I just define that. You're not allowed to do what exactly?
You should not do that.
Do what?
Because you are chief executive of a public
To
organization.
support a particular presidential candidate?
Outwardly, you can't come out and make a statement that everyone should vote for
Why
Mr.
can't he?
LB.
Why can't he?
It is wrong. It goes against the work that you're doing.
How?
Of course. Do you know corporate governance principles? And you are a CEO of a public entity for the whole of Ghana.
But he's a politician. He was appointed because of his political affiliations with the party.
It does not matter. The fact that you're a political appointee. It's the president that appoints the Chief Justice. It's the president that appoints the IGP. It's the president that appoints the chair of the Electoral Commission. There are certain jobs. It places a bigger responsibility for you to conduct yourself well, as an example to the country. I think it's important that what has happened is not good. This is not the first time we're
But I ask you a direct question, Kwabena Agyepong. You say that if the Cocoa Board CEO and others like him come to endorse you publicly, you will rebuke.
When they shouldn't, I would not even encourage them to do it.
No, but they don't need your permission to endorse you, do they?
They should read their own corporate governance principles as the organization.
You're saying that if they follow you to your campaign, you tell them not to.
I'm asking you the question. If you are CEO of a government enterprise for the whole of this country, first and foremost, although it is a presidential appointment, it doesn't make you just pure party. No. You're supposed to sit there and look after
if they do, you tell them not to.
They don't have to do it.
Yeah, I see.
If they recognize what they are doing as CEO of an organization.
True.
And every organization has a mission
So there's a
statement.
difference between what people should do and what they actually do. If they actually decide to do that for you, you tell them not
trying to accept something that is wrong to be the norm.
No, I'm just asking a question. You say they are supporting Bami and there's something wrong with that ethically, etc. But I'm saying if they do for you,
I'm trying to tell
people want to just support you and show you love and come to your campaign, whether they are CEOs, ministers, whatever.
Who want to support
you will say no, don't do that.
Called me and I've said, don't make a public statement. If you want to materially support me, that is fine.
But
I think we should set standards in this country.
But why do you blame the president for this?
Because ultimately the buck stops with him. It stops with him. He's got the authority to be able to get the chief of staff to call them off.
You want him to call CEOs?
You can't have a CEO that leaves his workplace
off from backing and supporting
Not
Dr.
backing, but roaming around the country following one candidate. It is wrong. You see, wrong is wrong. I mean, you can disagree with me, but I believe if you're managing director of State Housing Corporation,
I haven't seen any code that says they cannot support a candidate of their choice and go out there to compete.
Go and talk to the Institute of Directors, and they'll give you all the strands of corporate governance regulations and the things that you should do.
Be that as may, the president says the assertions being made by a few in our party who, because of internal party politicking, are accusing my government of allegedly intimidating and coercing party faithful to throw their support behind one of the presidential aspirants, that is the vice president. That is false and a malicious narrative.
You know what, Evans? I'm here to talk about my vision for Ghana. That's what matters.
Yeah, well, that's a second leg. That's what we're going to do. We're talking about the party first.
I don't want you to let this become
we'll go there. True. I mean, I said
I don't think we need that.
We'll spend a lot of time talking about that vision.
What is important is that
you're saying that
there are principles in this country. There are principles of corporate governance, and when something is happening and it is not good, we must say it. And you, the media, should call them out. It doesn't even have to be the aspirants to do that. I don't think it is right.
I put it to you,
and if it is not right, let's tell them it is not right.
I put it to you simply that you're only complaining because you don't have as many of these individuals supporting. That if you did,
I don't think so.
You would also have accepted that and encouraged it.
I would not have encouraged it. I'm different. You have to accept that I'm very different. I believe in propriety.
The different in the less support you actually have.
No.
Nothing
it's
more.
It's not about support. It's about principles, values, etiquette, ethics. That's what I believe in. And people should respect
Is
that.
the playing field level and fair?
I'm not worried about the playing field. All I'm saying, the optics are poor. You understand? The optics are poor. Let's do what is right for the country. We have a country to guard. We have a charge to keep.
Let's talk about Ghana, because you put out your vision for the country. And one of the things you said you will do, and it stands out, is you run a lean government. You want to run a government strictly according to the dictates of the number of individuals that must sit in your cabinet. 19, you said.
That's right, yeah.
16 ministers, regional ministers. And then you have the deputies, a total of 54. You were part of the John Kufuor administration.
I was his press secretary.
Great. He promised that he would run his government with a lean, he would run a lean government too when he was opposition. You remember what he said when he came to power?
Yes, I do.
Exactly. He said, well, I made the promise, but the reality is different. I cannot keep that promise. In essence, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
People are different. He's John Kufuor, I'm Kwabena Agyepong.
How are you going to do this? Prove it to me.
How am I going to do it?
Yes.
Just appointing 19. I've reconfigured the ministries. I think the natural home of youth and sports is education. But that's where you have a lot of sport and activity. You can produce a production line of academicals for our nation. A lot of transport should be transport. I don't think aviation or railway should be outside transport. Even when I was President Kufuor's press secretary, as a civil engineer, I remember the day that he was asking me to make those announcements, and I looked at him in a certain way. I have to take instructions. But if I'm blessed to have the opportunity to be president, I'll be substantially different. I don't see why there should be a Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs or Ministry of Chieftaincy. It used to be a secretariat of the presidency. So there are many things I want to see cut, especially when we are going through very tough economic times. And it's not the quantum of money you save by reducing the ministries, per se, but it's the strong moral message you send to the country that you are really tightening your belt and you are leading by example. You mean what you say. And with Kwabena Agyepong, my word is my bond. I mean what I say.
Well, here's a challenge.
Yes.
You also say, and linked to this, that if you get the nod, you would also deal with unbridled politicization and interference to restore meritocracy.
Meritocracy and professionalism.
Here's the thing. Linked to the 54 ministers that you say you will appoint, people will support you.
Yeah.
They put their monies in your campaign. Yeah. They expect something back out of it. They will be loyal to you. When you win power, they expect that loyalty to be rewarded. That's what all the presidents before us have done, and then appoint people in positions based on the work they've done.
I don't think
Well, you say that all the people who sponsor you and put monies in your campaign, when you come, you only appoint people based on meritocracy and not because they've been loyal and supported you in the past.
There's always a mix. There is always a mix.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
To be guided by meritocracy. In
your principle, you laid out meritocracy.
Clear. Yes, for me.
What's the thing? You didn't say that you mix it up with loyalty and etc. as well.
Of course, when I talk about meritocracy and professionals, I mean what I say. Because look, in Ghana right now, we have overly politicized the public services. Go to any organization, they can point to you who is NDC, who is NPP. It's become worse, even with the security services. It is wrong. We've got to get them to serve the state of Ghana.
True.
That is what we should be doing.
So you say in your government?
In my government?
You will not appoint one person purely down to politics and loyalty to you.
Why should that be the case? Loyalty to me as a person? Loyalty to the country? Or loyalty to the values of the party?
Look, you're saying to me, as a politician,
I have said it,
who can run a campaign based on your own budget, that if you win based on the support of everybody who's supporting you right now, that you will not appoint one single person in your government based on loyalty to you and past support.
What is important for me is to get the right mix of ministers to work.
Mix based on what? Okay. So definitely there'll be people in there.
I've given you what is based on. I don't know why.
No, you haven't. You've specified the meritocracy.
Yes, because
what is the other variable you're using apart from meritocracy?
Let me tell you something. Professionalism, very important. Okay, so does not mean that nothing like that would happen. What is important is we have a country to keep. And that this stridently divisive mentality that we have should cease. That's the only way we can build this country, Evans. That's how we are going to build a country. And I'm surprised that you think it's impossible to do.
No, I'm just asking the questions because
you seem
we
to
ask
believe in
questions
it
based on history.
No,
our history says
you seem to believe in it that it's impossible.
Well, it's not even
well,
history.
I'm telling you,
global politics everywhere in the world.
It's very possible
That you run a government and every single person in your government will be appointed simply based on meritocracy and professionalism, not party consideration.
Watch me when I become president. Watch me when I become president.
That is hard to believe.
Well,
you can actually run a government
that is for you.
Only based on meritocracy.
I think it's important that we make it clear to the Ghanaian people. Merit matters. Professionalism matters. And we have to reduce the strident political divisiveness in our country. It's important. We have to place the interests of the society, the country, paramount. Political parties are tools to develop our country. They're not an end in itself. I've served my political party. I believe in it. But it does not mean we have to be stridently political. In fact, President Kufuor himself is the one who talked about all-inclusive governments. We need to get our best human resource into politics. I'm someone who believes intensively in that we should not push away the people who can really help us develop as a country. And we can only do so when we respect the tenets of meritocracy and professionalism in our society.
You also say, if you get the nod, one of the things you do, drastic penalty regime, coupled with a strong political will to punish those who tinker with the public treasury.
That is a no-brainer. It's straight to the point.
True, but that's my question. I haven't asked the question yet. There is a case now of a member of your party, former sanitation minister Cecilia Dapa, on the face of charge sheets, monies were found in her home. She's resigned. Should that be enough?
The fact of the matter is, I think you are getting it completely wrong. Completely wrong. Because what, for me, I worry about, especially with Cici's case, was the fact of the amount of money that was found in the household. Because as governments, we should encourage everybody to formalize the economy. We go a long way to try and get everybody within the formal setting of the economy. It is not my duty now, okay, but the state has agencies that have to look out for how she came by those monies. I'm not prepared to pass judgment on her like others are doing, not at all, okay? Suffice it to say, I was disappointed that that amount of money was in a household. And that's as far as I want to go on that. As far as I want to go on that. It's important that we realize that we cannot, as politicians, preach one thing and do another. So when you're encouraging everybody to be part of the formal economy, the least we can do as leaders is to lead by example. So I was disappointed that she will keep that amount of money in a household. That's what I want to say about that. Because I'm not in a position to pass judgment on how and where. And people are saying all sorts of things about that. And I've known her. She's had a good record. Okay, so it hurt me, you know. But it is important that as political leaders, we should have the political will to do the right thing for our country.
You want to replace Nana Addo. Give me your verdict on how he's handled this matter.
I don't know why you journalists are so interested in my verdict. My verdict does not matter. Well, it's the verdict of the Ghanaian people.
We want to see. You are interviewing. You are interviewing, not on the show. Look, as you campaign to be the president of this country, we need to know how would you handle circumstances.
Well, there are many times.
If you are the leader of this country.
If you have followed my media interactions, especially over a year ago, okay, when we started experiencing the economic meltdown, I came in straight away and I felt that the president should take decisive action.
Has he been decisive in this matter?
He did not take action at the time. Okay, so my views on that are clear.
Which is
Are you going to take every matter and now come and ask me my views on the First, I didn't see him, and I said it was novel not to see him conduct any reshuffle in 7 years. Something that you not see in many governments around the world, because change is good. Reshuffling is a tool to drive performance and up the standards. I was surprised he didn't do that. Okay? again, as I said, the results in 2020 was a strong signal to him to make some very deep, cutting changes to his government. He chose not to do it. That is his prerogative. He's the president. I disagreed with that. So I've disagreed with him on quite a number.
You also disagree? I asked.
Why do you want to bring this matter? I mean, I think I don't.
It's a question.
Yeah.
Based on the current reality that
There are many current realities, like the Auditor General's report.
I will come to that.
Last year.
I will come to that. Yeah. Ghanaians want to know the individual who wants to lead them, how would they act differently if they're confronted with a scenario like this?
I've told you,
if you were him, what would you have done differently?
I've told you
obviously have told me you don't believe he acted decisively in this matter too, or I'm misrepresenting you on this one.
What is important is I've told you my views on quite a number of things.
I'm asking about Cecilia Dapa. Did he...
Why do you want to make the Cecilia Dapa matter the main issue of today?
No, it's not.
No, I've given you my views on
part
it.
Of this.
He is the president. The woman has done the honorable thing, resigned her position. If she hadn't resigned, maybe the president would have had to fire. And with other ministers, I thought he should have done that a long time ago.
Which ministers?
I told you about finance. And what was
should have fired the finance minister?
A long time ago. I made it clear.
Only him?
At the time, him.
After him and before him?
You want us to go from minister to minister and change it?
You introduced the subject. I'm just simply asking the question.
You introduced the subject.
You brought up the finance minister.
So,
you said he should have fired some ministers. You said the finance minister. Who else should he have fired that he didn't fire?
I don't think that is where you want this direction of this interview to go. I have made myself very clear, okay? On a few things I've disagreed with the president. That is my prerogative. He is the president. He can choose the actions that he wants to move on. You
would have fired more ministers if you were
I don't think... I would have... Well, I wouldn't have had that many ministers, I've told you. And I'm not saying that because I want to be elected. I said this even in 2015, if you care to go and look at hot issues in TV3. These are views. I have been consistent with my views even as press secretary to the president in 2004. Check with Sky TV in Takrady. I had an interview with them. So I have my views on some of these things. And God willing, I become president. I'll have a small government. I think that will be more effective, efficient, and also will not impose huge financial burden. Not only that, I've been appalled at the way we've been increasing the number of districts we have in our country. We started with 110. We are right up 260 plus. And has it brought with it any commensurate improvements, service delivery to the population? I don't think so. So those are my views, So that is what I believe in. And I think I will bring drastic changes to the way we govern. For instance, I believe that there should be clear separation of powers, but that needs discussion with stakeholders. I've talked about a cap on the Supreme Court.
Yes, and that will come to, because he has proposed put an upper limit on the Supreme Court, but also remove the retirement age. That I think was interesting. When we come back, I'll ask him his thoughts on that also. Stay with me. Kwabena Agyei Agyepong is my guest. His big ideas on the judiciary when we return. My guest is Kwabena Agyei Agyepong. He is the presidential hopeful. He is running among a field of 10 individuals who want to lead the NPP. He would face his verdict on the 26th of August. We'll talk about that and his own aspirations at the end of that day, where he hopes to place. But as you know, this show is brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them ourselves. Syntax tanks, it is strong, it is tough. Alomo Bitters experience greatness in every moment, and the Ghana AIDS Commission. So, you have said that your bold ideas and reform will also touch the judiciary. You want to place an upper limit on the Supreme Court.
I think right now, my memory serves me right. The information I do have, there are about 16 Supreme Court judges. I think that's on the high side. For a country, it's not easy to have 16 Supreme Court judges and so many of them still on retirement.
How many do you want to have?
Because I think we should put a cap of 9. A cap of 9, and also lift the retirement age from 70. I know Agyei Agyei Agyepong very well, the former Chief Justice. It's like a big brother to me, and he's still very strong. I think that he could have worked another 10 years, given the opportunity, but now you put him on retirement, he's on full salary, and then you've got to appoint a replacement. That's a double whammy for a struggling economy. So I think these are things, certain cuts that we can control as a country. We should be able to do it. And with law, I've been told by many people, my father himself was a judge, a lawyer, that the older you grow, the better you get, the more experience, like wine. And I think that perhaps we can let them stay much longer to when their health fails or they are called by the Almighty. That will save us a lot. And also it stops the narrative which is gaining currency. The presidents then begin to pack the court with their favorites. You know, because if you are not having too many people retiring at a time, then maybe in your 8 years you may have just one spot or two spots to replace. You know, so that it may not be the narrative, but that is what people are saying. And it denies the Ghanaian the kind of trust and belief they should have in the judiciary. So I think that once they know that they're not going to retire that early, the security of tenure and all that, to make them more independent, and Ghanaians will be more believing of the judiciary. So that's something I would like to work with stakeholders to see if we can make that cut.
You want to return quickly to the last few minutes. You are hoping that you'll be one of the 5.
That's right.
You said you've seen the polls.
Yeah.
Do you do your own poll?
No, I don't. I've never been.
You're flying blind.
I've never been a believer in polls, you know, because I've been around this country enough to feel the pulse of the country. And I know a lot of polls are massaged, and perhaps they are not scientific enough. Because right now, if you are not polling the super delegates, then you are also polling blind.
Yeah. So
there is no indication.
Have you polled them yourself?
I haven't polled. You know, so I'm not looking at that. But even all these polls that I haven't really given much of a thought to, they put me 4th, 5th. So I think.
So you believe you'll be in the top 5? Something happened in 2007. We set really the cost to changing the constitution where we are. At the end of a poll, those who don't make it, should they back one person in the race going forward?
They should be allowed to take their own decision. They should be allowed to take. I mean, politics, people, you have to create alignments, you know, dialogue and discussions, and all that can happen. And I think they should be allowed to do what they want to do. They are political figures. And they have to take.
There's been suggestions by some other aspirants that all of you 9 will come together and back Alan Kyerematen against Bawumia. Is there truth in that?
I knew you were going to come to this, the so-called Gang of 9 or Gang of 8. I think it was all misconstrued. It started because some of us started discussing what lessons we could learn from 2014. 2014, I was General Secretary who supervised the 10 different polling states. At that time, we had 10 regions. And there were some downsides, and we felt we should learn from that. Because when you have too few, for instance, I have 29 people are going to vote. 29. No, it may be easy to be able to glean.
I just have 30 seconds, but you're saying that's not true. That's not, the gang is not true.
It's not true. It's never been. We're talking about centralizing it and perhaps maybe going the way of how we elect the vice chairman and selecting 5 instead of just 1. Because it's a short list. So it's never true. And all that time, I was communicating with the vice president. These are our views. And so he expressed his views. So it wasn't as if we did something on his blind side or creating something against him. That is not true. So that derogatory word, gang, as if we're plotting something, is not true. Everybody should be allowed to decide on who they want to back.
Support. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, Ivan.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.